So let's take a look at this video and see what Putin says about the
lose everything right away.
EU.
But it's absolutely necessary to understand what might happen. And we need to be ready for any actions from our possible future adversaries. They do many things to their own detriment. It seems like, well, they definitely won't do this or that because it harms them. But they do it anyway, idiots. Please excuse me. The leading economies of the world are going into recession. They fall into recession just to harm us. It's like buying a ticket and not taking the trip just to spite the conductor. What is that supposed to be?
So we have the meeting coming up in Turkey, Istanbul, between Russia, Ukraine, and US. Mind you, Western Europe is not even included in these talks because Putin flipped the script on Western European coalition of the willing, or the France, UK, Germany, and Poland, or what I like to call nowadays the coalition of the willing. I like to call them now the French connection, due to their recent happy ending in the Ukraine train, where they ended up traveling on the train, doing some rails on railroads. And as they got to Ukraine, they ended up convincing this guy Zelensky that he needs to start taunting Putin into 30-day ceasefire, while Putin flipped the script and ended up calling him out to a direct negotiations. And then Trump jumped on this, and it ended up basically kicking EU or the Western nations, France, UK, Germany, out of these talks. I think this was partially planned, where Russia and US are kicking the ball in between themselves, and the ball is Western Europe and Ukraine. So we're gonna have a meeting coming up. Let's take a look at this video before we end up talking some more and looking at some articles where Zelensky is basically out of control, taunting and calling Putin uh, all kinds of names, that he's scared to meet him and everything. I mean, this guy Zelensky is off the rails because obviously he got some good stuff, possibly from the French connection gang that just got to Kiev on a train, on the midnight train. The midnight train. Yeah, we had the French connection coming on the midnight train and delivering Zelensky some good stuff. After which Zelensky just went crazy, started calling for crazy stuff, 30-day ceasefire, ultimatum to Putin. All the Western European leaders are calling ultimatums to Putin one after another. The EU diplomat Kaja Kallas is giving another ultimatum to Putin. Zelensky is now giving an ultimatum that he will only meet Putin after. I mean, there's ultimatum after ultimatum, and none of them are heard, neither from Russia nor from United States. Russia to send delegation to Istanbul talks on May 15, regardless of Kiev's stance. So Russia is going to send a delegation, no matter how much Zelensky keeps on freaking out and screaming and calling names and this and that, blah blah blah. Russia does what they do. Trump seems to basically follow right now what Russia is doing, and they're going to send their representatives to Istanbul. Now, the article says Russia will dispatch its delegation of negotiators to talks in Istanbul on May 15, despite Ukraine's position. And on Thursday, May 15, our negotiators must be in Istanbul regardless of Kiev's stance, and they will be there. And this clearly shows that today Russia is materializing the only genuine peace-oriented scheme proposed by our president, the senior legislator said. Had Kiev moved to implement the Istanbul Agreement back in 2022, hundreds of thousands of lives would have been saved, Slotsky maintained. As we revisit our special responsibility to humanity in defeating Nazism and the Nazi ideology today, Russia's position formulated by our president is there at the negotiating table. I call on Kiev to listen to the only viable position formulated by the Russian president that can bring peace. Basically, this article is telling you that Russia is going to give Ukraine an ultimatum when they end up meeting in Turkey. Let's take a look at this other article now. This is from the Telegraph and Russia's new Frankenstein missile terrorizing Ukraine. This article claims that Russia is building missiles with uh, US. This is the flag of Australia, South Korea, Switzerland, China, okay? And this one is probably South Korea. So they're saying that Russia is building this good missile that's basically terrorizing Ukraine right now. And they're saying it is fast, lethal, and was unrecognizable until Ukraine's military intelligence unmasked it as the S-8000 Banderol. Translated a small parcel in English, it is a lightweight, low-cost small cruise missile that reaches speeds of 400 miles and can hit targets more than 300 miles away. So, good missile. It is also specialist, a Frankenstein-like creation of foreign source components, which flies in the face of international sanctions. So much for your sanctions, I guess. Things still moving into Russia. Russia still building missiles from foreign sourced chips and other ingredients. And then the next article I want to look at is Zelensky will only meet Putin in Turkey. Again, Zelensky is freaking out. He's saying, I will only meet Putin. That's it. Nobody else. And the article goes on to say Vladimir Zelensky will only meet with Vladimir Putin for peace talks in Turkey on Thursday, and not other lesser ranking Russian officials, senior Ukrainian officials said. So you see their narrative. Ukraine always gives these ultimatums, but then US will end up telling them that you need to go and talk. They give an ultimatum for a 30-day ceasefire, but then they end up going for a direct negotiations because Putin flipped the script on them. Now they're saying that they will only talk to Putin, Zelensky will only negotiate with Putin. Don't be surprised when Zelensky sits down with Witkov, Kellogg, and Russia's Ushakov and Lavrov in one room, and the big boys will basically tell Zelensky that time is up and the French connection won't be in that room to help them. And again, French connection is France, UK, Germany, and Poland. Those four countries, the axis of French connection, I call them from now on, because they like to ride in midnight trains to Kiev and bring some good white powder for Zelensky so he can then feel like a big macho man and do all kinds of ultimatums to Putin. So this article goes on to say Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, held talks with his Turkish counterpart last night to discuss the planned negotiations, but the Kremlin has not yet confirmed who it will send. Zelensky is screaming that he's going and he wants to meet Putin, but Russia is just saying, okay, whatever, just go sit there and wait. Whoever comes to talk to you, you'll end up talking to whoever we send, okay? The Ukrainian president insisted in his evening address last night that he was ready to meet Putin for the first time since 2019 and criticized the Russian leader's strange silence over whether he will attend. So Putin is annoying Zelensky. It's like this guy that has some type of a argument or a fight with another guy, and he tells him, "Hey, I'm gonna be here at 9 o'clock. You better meet me there." And he goes and sits there, and this other guy says that I'll be there, don't worry, and he's not showing up yet, and this guy is freaking out. But Putin is gonna show up, or somebody for him will show up. And to talk that Zelensky says Putin is scared of him, Kaja Kallas, of EU diplomat, she claims that Putin is scared of Zelensky. I mean, come on. This is childish, just like their 30-day ceasefire ultimatum bluff game was childish, which ended up putting them in this situation. Russian shelling and assaults continue. Moscow remains silent all day regarding the proposal for a direct meeting, a very strange silence. One way or another, Russia will have to end this war, and the sooner the better. So come on, this guy is crazy. So he's threatening the winning side that the sooner they end the war, the better it will be for them. The French connection must have brought something more than just the white powder. I mean, Zelensky is delusional. This guy is delusional. And then the article goes on. Donald Trump said earlier Monday that he was thinking about flying to Turkey for the peace talks after visits to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. I don't think Trump is going to go there because Putin is not going to go. Like I said, what's going to happen is Zelensky is most likely going to be pulled and forced to go to Turkey by Trump and Putin, and the French connection is not going to be there. They're going to put Zelensky in one room with the big boys, Lavrov, the big goat diplomat. You're probably going to have Steve Witkoff, Kellogg in one room where they're going to sit down and tell this guy that games are over, man. French connection is done for now. You need to just shut your mouth and just do what we tell you. And that's what's coming on Thursday. Ukraine Zelensky insists on face to face talks with Putin in Istanbul. Zelensky will attend talks only if Putin does. Kremlin yet to say whether Putin will attend. Trump's envoy will travel to Istanbul. Europe works on more sanctions on Russia. So this is a summary. Zelensky will go there. Putin, we don't know. Kremlin yet to say who is going to go if Putin is not going. Trump's envoy Stephen Kellogg are going to go. And of course, the French connection is in the background, making some more sanctions and some more stupidity from the French connection. I'm sure stupid ultimatums we're going to see coming up. And the article goes on. President Vladimir Zelensky said on Tuesday he would attend talks with Russia on the war in Ukraine this week only if Vladimir Putin is also there, and goaded him by saying the Russian leader was scared to meet him face to face. Like I said, the French connection on the midnight train must have brought some good stuff to Zelensky. And now Putin is really scared of Zelensky and is scared to meet Zelensky face to face. The Kremlin has yet to say whether Putin will take part in the talks scheduled to be held in Istanbul on Thursday, more than 3 years into deadliest conflict in Europe. So Putin is keeping Mr. Zelensky in suspense, sitting in Istanbul, shaking and waiting for him as he sniffs some more of that white powder that the French connection brought to him on that midnight train to Kiev.